I want to call on stage this wonderful lady, Mary. Please let us all welcome her, our keynote, the co-founder and the president of SowHope, Mary Daly Brown. Let's stand for her.
Thanks, dear. Hi, everybody. I'm not using this, right? Tony, I'll give this to you later. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. Did you enjoy the meal? Pinnacle Center, if you're listening, our compliments to the chef. The meat was unbelievable. Well, thanks, Alan, and thanks, Frida, for the intros. Really appreciate that. And before I forget tonight, I want to recognize my staff and the volunteers who set all this up. So, Aaron, where are you? He's up there, running the whole show, like usual. Aaron is the program, the administrative director at SowHope. And we had two volunteer captains tonight, Priscilla and Beverly. Where are you guys? There's Priscilla and there's Beverly. They got you your name tags, decorated these tables, and got everything ready. And thanks to all the volunteers that are here. There's several that helped set everything up. I also want to, this year, not forget to have the board members of SowHope stand up and be recognized, please. We have an amazing board at SowHope, and they do a great job of directing this organization. We also have some very special former board members, founding board members. And would you guys stand up, Bonnie and Craig, and Dr. Pam, Olga, would you stand up, and Jean, and Doreen. Doreen, would you stand up too, please? These people have been involved with SowHope since the very beginning, literally started the organization. They were part of the team that started. We had 9 founding board members, and 4 of them are here tonight. Well, tonight I want to inform you about our upcoming documentary called Charity Redefined. That title was the brainchild of our very beloved late board member, Professor Dan Balfour. When we were looking for a tagline for our new logo, Dan was on the team, and he came up with this actual phrase, "Charity Redefined," to be the tagline for SowHope. We didn't choose that one, but we went back to that list and we found it for the documentary and realized that it's a really powerful 2-word summary of what we're trying to say and what we're trying to do. So, in his honor tonight, his wife is here along with 2 tables of people that love him, and we're glad to have you here tonight. And we remember him with great fondness. We've been working on this documentary for over a year now, and it's coming together, albeit slowly. I'll be showing you some short clips tonight, some sneak peeks, to give you a little idea of what we're hoping to accomplish with it. We think it's important to share what we have learned through our organization, and we hope that it will inspire the nonprofit sector and donors like you to move in the direction that we've taken. Our philosophy of mission and strategy comes from years of experience, both here in the U.S. and in Africa and Asia. I have been involved with charity work since high school, when we were all required to go and volunteer a few hours a week. I went on to study photography in college and eventually worked as a professional photographer. But I continued to volunteer at charities and my church, and eventually I began working at nonprofits. I was the founding director of Love Inc. of Lake County in Illinois, helping connect the clients of local social agencies who were in need of practical help like plumbing or carpentry, connecting those people to skilled church volunteers. It was a wonderful collaboration, and many people were helped. At the same time, my husband and I were volunteering to lead church teams to Mexico to build houses every summer. We did this for many years and built about 25 houses. More importantly, we made many great friendships, both with the Mexicans and with the team members, which we still have today. Later, I worked at a church as the missions director and took teams all over the world. Altogether, I've taken over 150 teams to over 40 countries. I learned a lot about what makes a lasting effect on the places we visited, and it boils down to this: who is really in charge of what is going on? Whose idea is this charity work? Who owns the project? It didn't take too long to figure out that Westerners leading projects in foreign countries where they do not live for an extended period of time, or don't participate meaningfully in the culture, or don't speak the language, these did not have very sustainable or useful outcomes. A simple example is a well that I saw in Ethiopia. I think Ray was with me on that trip. Ray Snook, where are you, Ray? Yeah, we were in Ethiopia together on a team of about 10 people, and we walked by this, what looked like a broken down well. After a few days, I asked one of the locals, what's going on with this well? Why don't you guys use this well? Why are you going down to the river? And they said, well, there was a guy here who was in the Peace Corps for 2 years, and we liked this guy, and he decided that we needed a well. We needed fresh water. So he raised the money, and he built a well, and we all used it. But then he left after his 2 years were up, and pretty soon the handle broke off, and we didn't really have the parts to fix it. We didn't really know how to fix it. And we kind of like going down to the river because it's our social time. So we just go back down there now. And they said, his well broke. That's a very simple example, but I can tell you that millions, if not billions of dollars are lost on projects devised, implemented, and paid for by Western operatives. There is an old saying that goes, he who pays the piper calls the tune. In other words, the ones with the money make the decisions. They own the projects. It's very expensive to undertake a charitable project in a country that has little or no infrastructure, or doesn't have a thriving market, or has an unstable government, which is the case in most low-income countries. Another problem with foreign-led inventions is that the foreigners do not truly understand the needs or the solutions in unfamiliar cultures. People see others suffering and want to make a difference. So what is the solution? The solution lies in the local leaders who exist in every group. They are the ones who sacrificially serve their people. They're not always perfect, but they are the ones who work tirelessly and thanklessly, kind of like our volunteers here at SowHope. And they get things done, and they make things better. People follow them because they are servant leaders. They exist everywhere. In this room tonight, even. I guarantee you that if some catastrophe happened here tonight, though some local leader who understands this place and this area would rise up and direct the rest of us to safety, regardless of their own well-being. And we would all follow them. When we started SowHope, I knew that we would conduct ourselves in a way that is not the norm for a U.S.-based multinational nonprofit. We would be paying the piper, but we would not be calling the tune. We were redefining the way to do charity. What is a definition of charity? What has it come to mean? Think about, what's a charity case? I want to ask you to raise your hands. How many of you think that charity can be negative? How many think it's positive? How many think it can be both? You're all right. According to Webster's Dictionary, charity has multiple definitions, including the act of being generous and helpful, especially towards those who are in need or are suffering, the act of giving aid to those in need, the act of being kind when judging others, a benevolent feeling, especially towards those who are in need or are in disfavor. It could be an institution that provides relief for the poor, kind of like SowHope. We're a charity. We're registered as a charitable organization under the U.S. tax code. Even the Bible describes charity as the highest form of love, uses the word agape to describe it in 1 Corinthians. Agape is the love that God has for people. It's a perfect love. I think we can all agree that helping to alleviate the suffering of the poor and needy is a good thing. So what has happened to the meaning of charity that we feel the need to redefine it? How can such a good thing not produce only good results? Charity around the world, by and large, is driven by people with resources who want to see changes. Many times they are people of action who have great concern for others that they have learned are suffering. They are taken in by the need and see the people as helpless, sometimes ignorant, about how to rise above their dilemma. So they begin earnestly to invest in making some change. Often it is to help the children, whose plight elicits a strong emotional reaction. They try to find someone locally who also seems to care, and they often pay that person to do the work that they feel so strongly about. Or they fund a big project, or a small project like the well in Ethiopia, only to find that the local people are not as committed to the project as they had hoped. When things get tough, they are told by the locals, "Thank you for trying, but your project just doesn't work here." It is very disheartening for someone like my good friend who started a hospital in Africa. It was built in an area where there was lots of poverty and instability and great need. After several years of supporting them with direction and financially, when he tried to move them towards self-sustainability, where they could run the hospital on their own, without his assistance, he met resistance, since they had become dependent on the income from the nonprofit. This led to infighting and jealousy among the staff. Eventually, it became necessary to abandon the project, and it was heartbreaking. I read this meme recently, and it made me think. I'm not sure it's true, but you can think about it yourself. Give one time, and you elicit appreciation. Give twice, and you create anticipation. Give 3 times, and you create expectation. Give 4 times, and it becomes entitlement. Give 5 times, and you establish dependency. And that is where charity needs to be redefined. I teach an international nonprofit course at Grand Valley State University. It's where I met Dan Balfour and Aaron and half of our board. Anyway, I teach there, and one of the books, I teach a class on international nonprofits. And one of the books we use is written by Dambisa Moyo, an African economist with a PhD from Oxford. In her book, Dead Aid, she writes about how charity to her native Africa has gone awry. The reality is, she says, that aid, charity, has helped make the poor poorer and growth slower. Aid has been and continues to be an unmitigated political, economic, and humanitarian disaster for most parts of the developing world. Her solution: get rid of aid. Promote entrepreneurship and free trade. Invest in infrastructure and community development. Give loans, not grants. Charity Redefined at SowHope. So what do we do differently, and how has that worked for the past 18 years for us? Our strategy is summed up like this. We partner with local leaders, solving local problems, using local solutions. Our method is based on relationships of trust. People that we trust tell us about people they know who they think could be a potential SowHope partner. We go visit every potential partner to see what kind of leader they are. We walk with them and see how they interact with the people they say they are leading. It's not hard to tell if a person has influence, or how they treat people, or how people respond to their leadership. You don't have to know the language. You just watch. Are they doing something to change lives? We can tell in a few days if they are someone we want to partner with. We never suggest anything or any amount of resources to them. At first, it was a struggle not to suggest ideas to local leaders. But the minute we start giving advice, it becomes our idea and our responsibility. And we want it to be their idea, so they own it. We acknowledge the good work they're doing and then ask them what their dreams are and what they would do with more resources. If a person is a leader with a vision, they almost always have an answer to those questions. And they answer appropriately within their capacity, within the ability they have to do what they're asking for. People don't usually ask for more than they can do. We invite them to fill out an application for a grant to do a project that fulfills their dream. Once that project is done, we go back to visit them and encourage them and ask them what they want to do next. Usually they have a little bigger project because we've built their capacity. I'll give you an example of one of our partners, Sarah from Nigeria. She's a great example of this. I met her in 2007. Sarah was an educated person. She worked for the government as an agriculturalist. She worked in 5 states of Nigeria, traveling around to the rural areas, training people in agriculture. But when she came home from work, she lived in a very, very poor neighborhood. We had to walk almost a mile through muddy, well, I guess you could call it a road, no car could get past it, to get to her house. And she had built a little room off of her house, and she was teaching people every night. She would do 6-week classes. And she would charge people $1 to come to the class. 5 nights a week for 6 weeks. She would teach things like literacy, cooking, sewing. She had a computer with a generator. She would teach them how to do keyboarding. And then when they were done with the class, she would have a graduation ceremony. And she would give them a little graduation certificate. And people would take that certificate and they would get a job with it. And she really loved helping women. So I was very interested in her. And I asked her, Sarah, what are your dreams? What would you do if you had more resources? And she immediately said, oh, I would buy a knitting machine. Really? How much is that? $400. Why? Because knitting is the most profitable thing I can teach a woman. I said, oh, you know what? We're going to give you the $400. How many women do you think you could teach in a year? I think I could teach 8. I said, okay, you take this $400, buy that knitting machine. Let's see how it works. Went back to visit her a little over a year later. We asked her, we went to see how she was doing, and she was so excited. She said, you're not going to believe this. About the 3rd person I taught was better than me. And together, the 2 of us taught 22 women how to knit this year. I said, wow, that's really great. I said, what do you want to do now, Sarah? What's your dream now? She said, now I want to build a small building and put 10 sewing machines in it and start a seamstress school. Okay, what would that cost? $5,000. Oh, how many women do you think you can help in a year? I think I can help 100. I said, okay, let's do that. So you see how her capacity grew. She gained confidence from that first project. She launched out to do more. After that was a big success, she started to ask me. We built a relationship with her, and she was still traveling around these rural areas, which is the poorest areas of the world, by the way. Rural areas are where the poorest people live. And she asked me that she told me that she could identify leaders in those small rural areas. And she said, if you give me money, I will help them run their own projects. We said, man, you'd do that. We can't really afford it. We don't pay people salaries. But she said she would volunteer to do it, and she would do it as part of her work. So she started to identify leaders, and eventually she identified 30 leaders. And we were giving her up to $30,000 a year to help fund these different projects and different people. And she was volunteering to do all. She did finally retire. When she started to manage these other projects, she was had the time to go and encourage people and help them and help them do their projects. Unfortunately, Sarah died this past August, suddenly. It was a great loss for us It was a great loss for Nigeria. Dr. Pam, who travels with me quite a bit, founding board member, and Dr. Sylvia Juta, our new program director, and I are going to go there in 2 weeks to meet with several of those leaders. First of all, to mourn with them the loss of our beloved Sarah, and then to see if they have a way forward. True to our strategy, we will listen. We will not tell them or even give advice on how to solve this problem. If a leader or a group of leaders rises up, or if they come up with some local solution that we wouldn't think of because we're not living in that context, if everyone's in favor or most people are in favor of it, we will join them in whatever work they want to continue. But the solution must come from them. They have to own it. If we solve that problem, it becomes our responsibility. And since we don't live there, we don't want to take that on. We want to partner with them to complete a mutually agreed upon mission. And this partnership is real because we can't do anything without our partners. And what we help them do, they could never do without us. They own the projects. They're part of our little contract. We don't really have contracts, but the part of our agreement, their part is to solve the problem using their local solutions. And this is where we differ from most organizations. Most organizations will tell you they partner with people overseas. But what they really do is they pay people overseas to do the work that they want done. We do not do that. We are redefining charity, and we are letting the local leaders tell us what the problems are and what the solutions are. And we are trusting them to do the work of making things better. Ownership carries authority and responsibility. It brings success and sustainability, which leads to self-confidence and greater capacity, which means they can do more and more, like Sarah. People in low-income countries are used to white people telling them what to do. Most of our partners initially try to figure out what we want to fund so they can know what to say to us. They can hardly believe that we really want them to mastermind the work. This produces one of the greatest attributes I have personally witnessed, and that is dignity. Our partners have dignity because they carry the weight of what they say they can do. They convince us of what they want to do, and then they do it. In our partnerships, the local leader has all the authority, all the responsibility, and gets all the credit for the work they do. Sometimes I get credit for the work they do, but I tell them, and I tell the people they're helping, they get the credit. This is their project. Matter of fact, a lot of organizations put up signs with their names on it. And we tell our partners, put your own name up on the project. Put your own sign up. You don't have to put our sign up. But many times they do because they're grateful for our partnership with them. But we tell them, this is your project. You put your sign up. We don't have to have our sign up. Sometimes they put it up. If they want to, that's fine. We don't ask them to. We don't want them to. Our part is encouraging them by funding time-limited, outcome-based projects that they submit, then visiting them and affirming their work. I cannot emphasize enough how important this strategy of trusting local leaders to solve their own problems and then verifying their work is to the success of the projects we fund. It's everything. We both have the same goal, and we both need each other to accomplish our goal. We pay the piper, but they call the tune. A few other points I want to make about how we do charity at SowHope. Rather than doing projects which give out handouts, we encourage our partners to submit sustainable development projects. We fund projects, for example, that help people overcome a debilitating illness so that they can survive, work, and support themselves. Or we fund a project where they gain practical and useful knowledge that can be used to earn their own income. Or a project which provide economic capital and business training, allowing people to sustain themselves, like what Alan described earlier when he gave the introduction. These kinds of projects meet real needs in a dignified way. They're sustainable. They can continue on without more support. They allow agency to those being helped. This is what we mean when we say charity redefined. I'm going to have a Q&A in a few minutes, so if you have any questions, you can think about them and you can ask them in a few minutes. Right now, I want to talk about our mission a little bit more. I know Frida described it, but I just want to repeat it again. Our mission at SowHope is to inspire women around the world by promoting wellness, education, and economic opportunities. That is our overarching goal at SowHope. At SowHope, we believe that women in impoverished areas are key to turning a culture and economy around. So many organizations try to help kids, and that's not bad, but when you consider that helping a woman automatically means that her children will be helped, it becomes a matter of economic efficiency and effectiveness. As much as we might care about poor children in the world, I can assure you that no one cares more about them than their own mothers. And let me ask you this. How do you think women feel when people richer than them come in and begin to take over taking care of their children? Imagine if you were poor and somebody came in and said, hey, I can see you can't take care of your kids. Let me take care of them for you. How do you think that'd make you feel? Well, let me tell you, it makes them feel shame. We demean women when we take care of children, their children. We do them a great disservice. Empowering women doesn't just change the woman. It changes their children and their communities as well, because women reach out to their neighbors. As soon as they're taken care of, they begin to reach out to their neighbors. I've seen it over and over again. It is the most overlooked and underfunded approach to sustainable development that there is. Only 2% of all charitable dollars in the United States go to the 98% poorest people in the world. 2% goes out of our country. 98% of our charitable dollars stay right in our country. We're the richest country in the world, and we give 2% to people. We're 6% of the world's population, and the 89% that are really poor, I'll talk about that in a second, we give 2% of our charitable dollars. And that charitable dollars, I'm talking about our government aid, church money going overseas, foundation money, corporate donations, individual donations. 2% goes overseas. And of that 2% that goes overseas, guess how much gets to women? Anybody want to guess? 2%. 2% of the 2% goes to women. Now, just on an aside, I just read this week that if you earn $38.60 an hour or more, you are in the top 1% richest people in the world. If you make $80,000 a year, you're in the top 1% richest people in the world. If you earn $30 a day, that's $3.75 an hour, you're in the top 17% richest people in the world. That's 83% of the people make less than $30 a day and live on that. We don't really realize how rich we are. We're so rich compared to the rest of the world. Now I'm going to show you the sneak peeks. The first video is of Bangladesh, and it's just what we call B-roll. That's video talk. It's just the raw footage. There's no story to this yet. There's no music to it yet. It's just this is what we have to work with to make stories. So I'm gonna build up a little bit here, but I'm gonna show you. We were just in Bangladesh Pam was with me, Dr. Pam. And by the way, I just want to say that Pam has made it possible for me whenever she travels with me, and we have long haul flights. She'll often upgrade me so I can lay down, which has preserved my life, I believe. Some of these flights are 36 hours, and so every once in a while I get to sleep on a plane, and got to thank my buddy Pam. So she's been a huge help and a great encouragement to me, great friend. We visited our partner in Bangladesh, Nelson. He does really great microfinance projects. I mean, really great. His projects are run so well, fair. They're so sustainable and perpetual. These are groups recently formed. We gave the seed money for it. They're building a bank, and this will just run off itself and keep adding more and more groups. We just give the initial amount. When he goes to a whole new area, sometimes he asks us to give the seed money so he can begin the bank there and start groups, hundreds of groups. One time during the 3-year project, when it came time to send the third and final installment, we were doing a $50,000 project, $20,000, $20,000, $10,000. When it came time to send the last installment of $10,000, I said, hey, it's time for the last installment. He said, Mary, we don't need it. We've done so well with the program that we've already reached all the goals of the project. Send the money to other poor women. We're doing fine. You'll see some of the things the women do, the farming, basket weaving, animals, and one woman who even opened a very successful pharmacy in their village and never had one. And she had the idea to do that. So let's show that video from Bangladesh. Like Nelson, he said microloans are very good for women. Looked, and I found many organizations, not non-government organizations, that would help children, but not one that was helping women.
They will have enough cows.
Did she do all of this?
No, this and another two.
This one? Can we go out? Can we go out?
Niya do huluin rohoy kada niya ko do ar ante na ro khet menak taleya niya ko.
Guys.
Wow, my goats. Small. Small, but chairperson of this group. So you would like to talk with her?
Yeah.
ভাই আমার বুকটা ব্যথা করছে, একটু প্রেশার ডাউন আবার করছে।
Am I on? By the way, you have to be an extremely good dancer to be like working for SowHope too. That is one of the most humbling, humiliating parts of this whole job. They always want you to dance, and they always like to give you their clothes, and you just look, utterly ridiculous. But it's all good. They actually really get a good laugh out of that usually, so that's good. We want people to laugh. Now I'm going to show you, the next video is from Pakistan, and I really cannot emphasize enough how amazing our partners around the world are. Every one of them is just fantastic. Our partners are so smart, so compassionate, so strategic, so brave, so selfless. Most of them are highly and self-educated. Truly, I stand in awe of them. As Americans, we often correlate wealth to importance, but I can tell you that is a very big mistake. You can never underestimate the impact of a great and loving leader, no matter their personal wealth. Sister Zeph from Pakistan is no exception. As a child, she was bullied in school for being a Christian. She went home and taught herself and her sister and a little friend. She took the state tests each year and eventually graduated from college. Along the way, she kept teaching more and more vulnerable children. She runs a very successful school that is free to very poor children. But that is not enough for Sister Zeph, who also runs a women's vocational training program. That is what we support. But this video really shows what a tremendous person she is. Enjoy.
As human beings, it is our responsibility to be by their sides, to make them feel that they are not alone. And we can only do this when we make them empowered.
Yes to planet! Yes to planet! No to plastic! No to plastic! Yes to planet! Yes to planet!
Women need to be educated because most of the women are future mothers. For me, the women's work is the most important thing, because if you want your children to be educated, if you want them to be healthy, if you want to give them a better lifestyle, mothers should be financially empowered. And this is why I started giving them trainings like hairdressing, makeup, and fashion designing, stitching.
यही कि मैंने शुरू से मतलब यहीं पे सीखा, फिर यहीं पे जॉब करना शुरू हो गई, तो अब मतलब अच्छा लगता है खुद ही कमा के तो अपनी सारी ज़रूरतें पूरी करना.
मुझे अच्छा फील होता है कि मैं जी फाउंडेशन में आई, इन्होंने मेरी हेल्प की, मुझे हुनर दिया, काम दिया, और मैं अपने पैरों पे खड़ी होकर अपने बच्चों को खुद पाल रही हूँ.
And then I met Mary Daly Brown from the platform of SowHope. And now the change is bigger. Before we had place for 10 or 15 students. Now you will visit our vocational center and you will see that over 70 young women are completing their trainings from there. All those women who have now dreams, they are hopeful for their future, and they know that even if there is no one by their side, they are their own supporters. They are empowered by themselves. And just imagine how beautiful it is, and it is because of SowHope.
SowHope ने और वी फाउंडेशन ने मेरे अंदर एक उम्मीद पैदा की है, और मेरी जैसी और बहुत सी लड़कियों के लिए जो मेरे साथ काम करती हैं, उनके लिए भी एक उम्मीद बना है.
So during all these years and after this work, I was able to give 100% free education to 3,000 children. And the way I kept my school sustainable, it was very much appreciated all over the world and recognized.
The winner of the 2022 23 Global Teacher Prize is Sister Zef from Pakistan.
So ultimately, I won the Global Teachers Prize out of 7,000 teachers from 130 countries.
Receiving this prestigious award is not just a personal achievement. It's a recognition of tireless efforts and dedication of countless teachers around the world who work to transform lives through education. It's a testament to the power of education, the power to change lives, communities, and the world for the better. I share this award with the students I have had the privilege of teaching and the communities I have the honor to serve. It's for the girls and boys who break all taboos, face challenges, dare to dream and learn despite the most difficult circumstances. Their resilience and determination are a constant source of inspiration for me. They prove that education is not just a right, but a beacon of hope.
Sister Zef, when I met her a few years ago, asked me to mentor her. She won $1 million. Self-educated. 3,000 students graduated from high school, many of them going on to college. She's just one of about, we've had 100 partners. And I'm telling you, I don't know if we just find the best people in the world, but I am just stunned by our partners. I have a little bit of time for any questions. If anybody has a question. Tony, would you come and get this in case somebody has one? Oh, you got one, okay. Here, Craig, you want to take this one? Oh, you got one too? Oh, wow. Somebody's doing their job. Are there any questions? We just have maybe 5 minutes for question and answer, real quick. This is clear as mud, isn't it?
Can you give us some numbers? The whole scope?
The numbers of how many people have been helped at SowHope? Yes, there's some literature on the table over there. There's an annual report from last year that has all those numbers, which I have not memorized, but it's a lot. It's like almost 140,000 women have been in our projects over the years. And like Frida said, 25 countries, and we've had about 100 different leaders that we've supported through the years. Yep, there's a hand back there.
How do you go about scouting for a new area or selecting a new partner?
Yeah, the way we find partners is that somebody we know and trust tells us about them. And the criteria is that they have to already be helping women. We don't want to help people that want to help women. We want to help people that are already helping women, usually sacrificially. So we go and find out. If they're helping, we tell. Traveling all around the world, I had a lot of friends, and I even lived myself overseas for 4 years in Europe, but have a network all around the world, and I put the word out that we started SowHope and that we would like to help women, impoverished women. So if you know anybody that's helping women, please tell us about this person. I'll go visit them. And immediately people started, go visit this doctor in Egypt, go visit this guy in Bangladesh, go visit this person in Kenya, go visit. And so I just started to go visit those people and would ask them to see, who do you help and what do you do? What do you do to help women? And they would take me to the groups that they were helping, and I would see what they were doing. Like Sarah showed me. When I got to her house that day, she had like 20 people that had been her students. She had something like, over the years, something like 600 students. But she had a whole house full of people that were there telling me, yeah, she helped me learn this, she helped me learn, and they were very happy. And I said, yeah, this is somebody we want to help. That makes sense? Yep.
How do we see you using, or SowHope using this new documentary?
Well, we're hoping that, we believe that our philosophy of allowing local people to come up with the ideas of how to help people and really just standing with them is a much better way to do development work. And so we're hoping this documentary will inspire other nonprofits to begin doing that. That's our hope, is that people will believe this and that they'll begin to trust the people that they give their money to. And you know, it isn't that you just trust somebody blindly. You have to go, and the fact that our friend John tells us about Dr. Nargis knows John and knows that John told us about it. So when we go to visit, we say, hey, John sent us to meet you, and so we'd like to see what you're doing. And she knows that her friendship with John is also on the line, because John has given her the reference. So it isn't just us, that she has to answer to. She has to answer to John, too. And that creates like a greater responsibility. Yes?
Just a personal question. Do you have partners in Brazil?
Do we have?
Partners in Brazil, some of the organizations you
Oh,
support
I
in
want
Brazil?
to go to Brazil. My son's from Brazil. I adopted an orphan from Brazil. But we literally have tried to target the lowest income countries. And believe it or not, South America isn't low enough, if you can believe that. But we eventually want to go to all the countries in the world. We wanted to start with the least developed, the least income, lowest income countries that we could get into. But I think we are open. We've served several countries in Asia and Africa, and I think we're ready to move into the poorest parts of some of the South American, Central American countries. We did some projects in Guatemala last year, too. Yes?
This may be a 2 or 3 part question, but are these women-only villages you're going into? And you're empowering these women. What kind of support are they getting from the men? I don't see any men involved.
Yeah, there are a lot of men involved, actually. Some of our partners are men.
Men that belong to the women. Are there men totally out of the picture?
No, men are not totally out of the picture. If women are married, for example, when they start a business, their husbands work with them. When I'm in Bangladesh, it's really pretty funny when a lot of the women, Nelson starts with married women for the first projects he does, because he wants the husbands to co-sign the loans, because he doesn't want women whose husbands are going to steal the loans. So these men have to come and sign the loans too, co-sign the loans, and co-sign their properties to the women. And he tells them, look, if something happens to you, we've invested in this person and your wife, and we don't want her to lose the project because you died. So you have to co-sign the property over to the wife, and you have to co-sign the loan, so if something happens to her, you have to pay it back too. So he does help the men in that community accept the microfinance. And of course, the men are thrilled, because now men for the most part, in the lowest income countries and the poorest places, they're not working. There's no work. And so you'll see them sitting around in the village centers, drinking tea, smoking hookahs, playing little board games. But if there's work, and they can get paid, they'll work. Women, on the other hand, have to work because they have to feed their kids. Whether they get paid or not, women have to work. So the men, as soon as there's money to be made, they're there. And they are proud of their wives. Many of them are very proud of their wives. And the way Nelson sets it up, he sets it up so that it becomes a family business. And then I asked him, I said, well, what about the widows? What about the poor women? He said, I can't start them off because culturally it wouldn't be acceptable. But the women who get wealthy will hire their neighbors. And he showed me that. A woman had bought 3 sewing machines, and she had her neighbors working in the sewing machines. So they do reach out to their poorer neighbors and help them. And I am out of time for the Q&A, unless there's one more really pressing question. Okay, we're going to finish up with one last video. Did you have one? Oh, Doug?
Right here.
You don't know anything about SowHope?
Recognized too.
By the way, would you stand up, Doug?
Stand up.
This is my beautiful husband. He's co-founder of SowHope, and really the reason SowHope started, I was a chicken. I wasn't going to do it. No way was I going to do it. But he shamed me into it. And he financed the first couple of years by selling his inheritance. Okay, we're going to show the last video now, and it's of Burkina Faso. This last video will be part of the documentary about our project there. This one is the most edited. This is the closest to what it's probably going to look like in the documentary, what the stories will look like. I'm going to end my talk with this one. Before I show it, I just want to say thanks again for coming out tonight, and I hope to see you all at the premiere, hopefully in August. I'm sorry, in April. Hopefully it's not August. Hopefully in April. When the video ends, Alicia Maria from Chicago will come up and do a special song that she wrote. And then Mita Fitzjohn, our board chair, will have the final comments. So please, be generous to the deserving women of SowHope. And together, let's get charity redefined. Good night, and God bless you. Enjoy the video.
You know when you have a nightmare and you wake up? They have a nightmare, but they can't wake up. They can't wake up.
Obstetric fistula is a debilitating health problem that occurs when the woman suffers from obstructed labor. So what happens is the presenting part of the baby, which is usually the head, will produce a compression between the bladder and the pubic bone. So that will stop the blood supply to the bladder and then kill the tissue technically. So that will produce a hole.
So the urine will leak from the bladder into the vagina and then just comes out without any control. So you're leaking urine constantly.
It's called the disease of the poor and also the shameful disease, because when they get it, they can't get close, or people don't want to get close to them.
I'm killing you, pissy, the Zakalai. Pissy, I opoya, I'm king at any ballet. I'm Pama, but I'm here to come permit Naya team.
When you're young and joining you, go to Korea, after Selma, Kotani, Kugan body.
There was no bed to be fair, obey Burla, won't be a Casaye. Alan Tache, a tinta dumunique, won't be a Casaye.
Yaman Barabi, be a boomato. Lele yaman bagala yam ki mam botonwa la kwe kabe tumam yikdara yam le runa dara ya am nan ken ti kimya ti sebo tumam dik mwiri ne yibe o fagi dam saha ken ti nan du tanga nan luli ti ni kem zinbe ne nyanma ni kema bi ne yisaba men zama am ka no men ti yimen na kayi duniye ba nan ti pam ti yimen na kayi duniye don zikanga at man fenkel tal bala.
Coming here because Arena means Association Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. So it's like waking up from that nightmare, coming here and being treated.
When we prepare this woman to do surgery, we are thinking about all of this because we are like the only hope that she has to have another life.
When we first came to meet Dr. Itengre and saw his heart for helping women, we were really impressed with him. He has compassion. It's kind of an amazing thing. We realized you almost have to have like a calling to do this because it's not something that most people would want to do. Because for one thing, these people can't afford to pay for it. He'll never get rich as a doctor. The reward is really helping people.
To see his humility and to see his gifted hands to be able to do this and help these women, it's just, it's remarkable.
Nous avons constaté qu'il ne s'agit pas seulement de fermer la fistule, c'est vraiment plus que ça. Après leur guérison, ils sont traumatisés. Il faut échanger, éduquer sur la santé de la femme en général. Les responsabiliser aussi, une fois de retour, qu'ils puissent s'occuper d'eux-mêmes. Leur formation, qui est en perlage et saponification. Et la formation aussi va les servir à générer des fonds pour s'occuper d'eux-mêmes et pouvoir participer au développement dans la communauté et même prendre en charge elle-même et ses enfants ou la famille.
Oh, nice facial.
Well, it was very important for Arena and for Burkina Faso to see this center opened, and this has been possible thanks to the support from the SowHope.
L'intervention de SowHope à Arena avec ces femmes, c'est leur redonner l'espoir de vie, les donner envie de vivre encore.
SowHope is the foundation. You know, I'm an architecture major. So building houses, you have to build the foundation. And SowHope is part of our foundation because SowHope helped finance this medical center. And by financing that, hundreds of women will be able to get treatment.
Il faut qu'il te petit pas, il faut y qu'il t'a qui vous yolo. Rien, c'est Mickey, yam qui est balai.
Que tu as vara, que tati, que tu as honné. Que tu te badin, me tourne, que le hanga. When I'm song, I mean, pa ma lafi, I'm Suria no pura when I'm baraka. La antel man bes, making me have a weekend and meet one that. Suria no pura when I'm baraka so. Arena man booming up for mama, pura madam with rogo. Nebza kasaba ne arena ram gili te wana wolo bi wa ba have nere am suria no wuso sisa yentane ala yo deme abana donc sigini be nana dokuru kono ya njusu jala ntanya jini chela banan no yala ko barka bu dote nu be fula na tamusu dote musun be mbo be fula kunu kono Kontanya jichela, banan no yala.